Hello, in this video session we'll be discussing about different methods used for passing parameters or arguments to a function. The first method is pass by value or call by value, in which we'll be passing the values, and second method is pass by reference or call by reference, in which we'll be passing the addresses. Okay, so first method is pass by value or call by value, and in this we will be actually passing values, or we will be copying the values from actual arguments to the formal arguments. Okay, so now this program we are trying to swap two numbers, and you'll see how this works. So here program starts with main, then after int n1 and n2 is declared, so memory is allocated for n1 and n2, and there will be address associated with both the variables. Okay, so here the name of the variable is n1, its L value or address is 100, then its R value or content is that it may contain some garbage values. Okay, similar in the case of n2 as well. Okay, now we are reading two numbers and storing it in n1 and n2. Let's say we are reading 10 and 20. 10 is stored in n1 and 20 is stored in n2. Okay, so before swapping, n1 is 10 and n2 is 10. Then after that we will be calling the function n1 comma n2. So control goes from here to here, and these values will be pushed onto a stack. Okay, so now control goes from here to here, and these values n1 in here will be copied to the formal parameter n1, and the actual argument n2 will be copied to formal parameter n2. Okay, so this is what happens when this function call is done. Okay, so control will be coming to here. So main is our calling function and swap is our called function. Okay, so now memory is allocated for n1 and n2. n1 is having address 400 and n2 is having address 500. Then these values are stored in formal parameters n1 and n2. Okay, so separate memory is created for actual arguments n1 and n2, and for formal argument n1 and n2. Okay, then the statement is in temp equal to n, so memory is allocated for temp, and the value stored in temp is equal to value in 10, which is 10. Okay, then after that n1 equal to n2, so value in n2 will be assigned to n1, so n1 becomes 20. And after that n2 equal to temp, n2 equal to temp, so value of n2 becomes value of temp, so n2 becomes 10. Okay, so here we have successfully exchanged or swapped the values of n1 and n2 in case of formal parameters, but it doesn't affect the actual arguments, since the formal arguments only contain the copy of actual argument. Okay, so now when this function, so we have executed all these statements, and once this is completed, the control goes to here, and all the memory allocated here will be destroyed, and then after that we will be printing n1 and n2. Since we have passed it by value, it doesn't affect the actual argument, so the value will remain same. n1 will be 10 and n2 will be 10. Okay, and once this program or main function is completed, this memory will be destroyed as well. Okay, so this is pass by value. We will be passing the value, and any changes made in the formal argument does not affect the actual arguments. Okay, now the next method is pass by reference, and these pass by reference are used in cases when we want to make changes in the actual argument. So any change made in the formal argument will affect the actual argument in the case of pass by reference or call by reference. Okay, so here we are doing the same swap function. The only difference is that we will be actually passing the addresses. Okay, addresses of variables. So the program execution starts with main, then I am declaring n1 and n2. So memory is allocated for n1 and n2 like before, and then values read to n1 and n2, let's say 10 and 20. Okay, so before swapping, n1 is 10 and n2 is 10, then the swap function is called, and in this we will be passing the address of n1 and address of n2. Ampersand n1 means address of n1, and ampersand n2 means address of n2. So we will be passing address of n1 and address of n2. So once this function call is executed, the control goes from here to here. Okay, so there are two pointers as arguments or parameters, formal parameters, and P1 will be having address of n1 and P2 will be having address of n2. So once this function call is done, control goes here and memory will be allocated to P1 and P2. Both P1 and P2 will be having some address. Also, the address of n1 will be stored in P1 and address of n2 will be stored in P2. Okay. Now next statement is int temp equal to star of P1. Star P1 means value at the address of P1, or we can say the star is an indirection operator. Okay, so it returns the value at the address of P1. Okay, so memory will be allocated for temp and it will be having the value which is stored in the address of P1. So value at the address of 100 is 10, so 10 is stored here. Then star P1 equal to star P2, that is value at the address of P1, that is value at 100 will be equal to value at the address of P2, that is 152. Okay, so value in 150 will be stored in n1 when this statement is executed. Okay, value at address 150 will be stored in place of or at address 100. Okay, so it changes to 20, and then when star P2 equal to temp is executed, which means executed, what happens is that in the address which is stored in P2, okay, that is 150, will be having the value of temp. Okay, so at 150 value of temp will be stored, so n2 becomes temp. Okay, since we are using pointers, we have the address of variables, we can manipulate what our actual arguments. Okay, if we observe here n1 and n2 are not accessible since they are local to main, but they are accessible through their addresses, which is one of the advantage as well as the disadvantage of pointers in C. Okay, so after executing these statements, the control goes after executing these statements, control goes from here to here, and all the memory here of the function swap will be deleted, and then after that here our actual argument values have changed, and when we print, n1 will be 20 and n2 will be 10. Okay, and once this function is also completed, this memory will be also deleted. Okay, so this is how pass by reference or call by reference works. Okay, so here since we are using pointers, any change made in the formal parameters will affect the actual parameters. Okay, so remember that. And now we will see some differences between pass by value and pass by reference. Again, pass by value, while calling the function, we will be passing the values by copying variables, but in pass by reference we will be passing the address. Okay, so here we will be using the copy of actual argument. Here in pass by reference we will be using what? Address of the variable. Okay, take in pass by value, changes made in formal parameter doesn't affect the actual parameter, and in pass by reference, changes made in formal parameter will affect the actual parameters, and in pass by value, actual parameters are same because the function definition cannot make any modification to actual parameters. But in the case of pass by reference, actual parameters are not safe because the called function can make changes to the actual parameters. So in pass by value, we will be requiring more memory since we are making the copy, and in pass by reference, less memory is used. Consider when we are using arrays or structures which is of larger size. If we are using pointers, only the memory for pointer is to be allocated. Okay, so if structure contains 4 or 5 variables and it has a total size of 40 or 50 bytes, or if you're using a large array with 100 elements, that is about, if it is integer array and it is using a 64-bit compiler, then it will be of about 400 bytes. Okay, so if you are using a pointer, then it will be taking about 8 bytes in the case of 64-bit architecture compiler. So we will be saving space if we are using the method pass by reference. Okay, so go through these topics. Okay, thank you.